If you're at one of those events, football game, then if you walked up to a steward and say, "Hey, I've lost my friend," and you gave that steward a photograph, how would they share it with the other stewards?
Welcome to another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. My name is David Gilliland. I'm one of your hosts. Today we get to have Lloyd Major out of Nottingham, England, in the UK, here with us. And he's the owner of the business Halo. Welcome, Lloyd.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much for having me.
And I shouldn't confuse that with the video game Halo, but
or the
rather
or the Beyonce song, or
or,
yeah, yeah,
or all the other Halos out there. I was
yeah,
going to have you sing
yeah,
the song, but I guess we missed that opportunity too there.
yeah, yeah. Maybe on a different podcast. Yeah,
We're just delighted to have you talking with us, sharing some of the things that you've learned. What's fun is just hearing the stories of entrepreneurs and where they got started. So, how did you get into this business? Because this is a tech security business. Tell us a little bit about it and then how you got it started.
yeah, sure. So Halo is on a journey to take 10 systems into one piece of technology. 10 systems into one tech is what we talk about, and those systems are all designed for public safety. So, incident management was the beginning of the journey, making control rooms in places where public gather safer. Could be anything from sports stadia to universities to train stations to festivals, events, literally any location where the public get together, right into task management, and then the rest of the software that comes together to make those places safe, accreditation, ticket scanning, mass notifications, public reporting, connecting all the disconnected processes, all the disconnected teams, and all the disconnected technology. So it all comes into one to make things safer. That's what we're doing.
Okay. That's a lot. So
Yeah.
so let's kind of like get into the head of it really fast. So you provide a software for people who are ensuring the safety of the public when there's massive
Absolutely.
gatherings like big concerts or
Yeah.
political rallies
Yeah.
or massive celebration days at the park or something like
Yeah.
that.
Exactly that. Yeah.
And then the security people then can see here's everyone dialing in, here's all the entrances, and maybe even tracking where crowds are forming and where there may be high tension
We
potentially.
can we can do some of that through our partners and integrations, but if you want to cut right through and make it immediately relatable to the listeners and the audience, if you're at one of those events, football game, even if you went to see the USA beat Pakistan in the cricket, then if you walked up to a steward and say, "Hey, I've lost my friend," and you gave that steward a photograph, how would they share it with the other stewards? They're not in the same WhatsApp group. You can't send a photo over the radio. They don't know each other. If it was more serious than a missing friend and it was a diabetic child, or it was somebody that you saw with a weapon, or in the control room, they saw somebody with a weapon and they were on the CCTV, and the people on the ground looking are looking for a white guy in a blue shirt and he looks like the other 5, 10, 20,000 people there. How do you help with that? So it's the sharing of information right across people on the ground so they can just get stuff done and help people.
Nice, nice. And how did you start this? Because 10 in one, most people start one software business. That's 10
Yeah,
that you're pulling
yeah.
in together. How'd you get into this in the first place?
So I was working in tactical support in the National Counter-Terrorism Unit in London. So I was a police officer, and I was in the National Counter-Terrorism Unit between 2016 and 2019, when the listeners, yourself, may or may not know that we had a lot of terrorism in Britain at that time, very sadly. Lots of international headlines, lots of stories that grabbed the attention. The main one that inspired the beginning of Halo was the Manchester Arena bombing. And when you deconstruct the events that took place from 21:38 hours on the 22nd of May 2017, and you go backwards and forwards over the weeks and months that preceded and then came after the actual attack, then there's a sequence of things where we've been able to learn and we've been able to do more from it. And that's not to chuck anybody under the bus that was there on the night. Incredible response from the people there, and uh, who are we to dare think that we do any better, or probably a lot worse? So um, when you have a member of the public who identifies suspicious behaviour and they tell a steward, and the steward isn't sure about how to react, and they're not sure about who to tell and how to tell them, and then the radio's really busy, and incidents, if you understand them, compete in the same space. They're all queuing on the radio to let somebody know. And you could have somebody talking about a fight, which is full of testosterone, it's dominating the airwaves, or a slip, trip, and fall that isn't important right now, but that is going to cost you $20,000 in 6 months' time. And then you get something about um, a suspicious person with a rucksack and they can't get in because the radio is busy, then with a technology solution, you can go right over the top and you can drop it in the control room, and the decision maker can read everything because they're not so busy. And that's where the story started. Just being at the Manchester Arena bombing, understanding the way the information moved around or didn't, some of the blockages, some of the ways technology can move those blockers, and tragically, of the 22 people that died, if we'd have been able to get the medics inside the hot zone earlier, then two people may have been saved. They were the findings from the independent inquiry. So there's a lot to unpack and there's a lot to take a look at and there's a lot to learn from. And people should go out and go home after a good night out where
Yeah.
they can.
So born of tragedy and built to prevent it
100%.
or to mitigate it.
Yeah.
Uh, Lloyd, really, really interesting, really neat. And then you had to start to learn the technology. I mean, you knew the security. That's where you came from. That was your background. You
Right.
find a tech partner. You kind of got going, and you've been building this business ever since.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm a non-technical founder. I don't do the code, and I think that is both a strength and a weakness. It's a strength because you can look at the stuff that the incredibly intelligent developers build and go, "What were you thinking? I want it to work like this. Make it simple. Like make it work for the end user. I'm the end user, so let's just let's do the complex really simply." And I think that's a good thing. And then it's a weakness because unless you can trust your tech partners and your tech team, how do you quantify what they're doing? How do you know if what they're doing is the best it can be, or as secure as it can be, or is value for money? Or did it really take 9 months when they could have done it in three, but they billed me for nine? There's things that you just need to really unpack, and there's a number of things I wish I knew sooner. I wish I'd have done sooner, but that's part of the learning, right?
It's part of the game, and you learned a lot of things to get to this point. I mean, to get a tech solution out and into the security into the hands of let's be clear, government and large groups, they it's not always easy to break into. I mean, your background certainly helped a ton to have the right connections and for them to trust what you were bringing. I mean, you learned a lot of things just to get the product market fit working, right? That they were
Yeah,
buying and it was doing what they needed to, and now you've gotten to this stage. You're bound to be in that 2 to 3 million pounds a year sort of revenue mark.
yeah.
Um, and you've learned some cool stuff. What what insights would you share with us? After passing that million mark, what kinds of things have helped you double again in size and grow a little bit more?
So I think that if I was to break this down, I would look at it as things I wish I'd have done differently from the beginning, and things that I am trying to wrestle with now. And I'd frame that context with an amazing piece of advice I was given by a friend of mine, actually, Rob Hallam, will shout him out. And he was telling me right in the first kind of month or two of building Halo that what works when you're building a company, there's a rule of three, and what works for three people won't work for nine, which won't work for 27, 30, yeah. And that won't work for that. And you have to constantly reevaluate everything that you do, even your expenses and your claims and your travel policies and your systems and software. So actually, scaling the business internally is equally as difficult as scaling it externally because you know where to find the clients, you know what the pain points are. You can create the message house, you can create the branding, you can create a compelling case study and narrative and do your outreach. But then you're actually building a business on the inside as well, and you're building departments and you're building customer success and you're looking after the clients that you've won. So I wish when I started I'd have had the opportunity or time or mentor or outreach or somebody to say, hey, look, that spreadsheet you're making, buy software like Zero, make it, because actually there's going to come a time when you need to do some investment. That spreadsheet's not going to cut the mustard, and you need to just have a proper financial governance in place and a proper system. And actually the customer relationship monitoring and system that you've got, and that website that you're using for free. Free is great while you've got no money and no clients, but you can get HubSpot for free or other software and make a proper thing and scale it all out. And because going back 4, 5 years later and unpicking it all and moving it around, and that is a nightmare. So I wish that I'd have started with the freemium versions of the large scalable software that you can fall into for running a business, and that would have been great. And underpinning all of that, I started the business with a great partner and friend of mine who brought a complementary skill set to mine. He was a very senior police officer, and I was more in the junior rank. So he had great strategic experience. I was great at the tactical and operational, and we spread ourselves across that way and went to market and moved the business into our contacts well. So from the sales side, that was really good. And I wouldn't wish to replace him or swap him out, but maybe a team of three, maybe a technical person right from the very beginning would have been paramount, knowing what I know now. Would have
Yeah,
saved us a fortune.
I just think let's unpack just a few of these nuggets
Mm,
and then dive in a little bit tighter on some of them. So one, your friend taught it to you. We've been teaching and telling over and over again. We call them the ones and threes of business, the stages. So
yeah,
where you're at, and it is team size related, right? It has to do with that. Right as you're approaching 8, 9, 10 people, if you don't shift gears, you're
mm,
sunk, right? You will
yeah,
plateau, you will burn out. You can go to 15, 20 people, but if you didn't shift gears, you're staying late nights, your margins are shrinking, your joy is going
yeah,
out the window, right?
definitely.
So so it's like riding a bike or driving a car. When you max out at those RPMs, when it's the ideal time to shift then.
Mm,
Later on, you're just burning the engine too
yeah,
much. Right? So
yeah, yeah,
shift at that ideal time, and you'll get 3 times the return out of the same energy input.
yeah.
And that's the shift, that's the gears. So as we shift both how we lead, how we organize our team, all that internal is essential. So I love that you brought that up, and the systems that track along with them, they all have to be done too. Both your people systems, meaning how you lead, how you organize, and your actual like software. That's a big one. I love that you shared that. I also heard you go into a point of if it's strategically important or essential, these are the things that set you apart for your business. That's not something to outsource.
Well, and exactly on that, if we talk about uh, if we look at technology businesses and those listeners out there who are building them or any product or manufacturing based business, actually, when you get to that kind of 5 year point and you're really scaling up and you're going global and you've built your team and there's 20 people in it, you're firing all cylinders and you're kicking up that revenue, going right back to the question that you asked, and actually product management is not dissimilar to probably like cocktail making or cake baking, or for the non-alcoholics out there, you bake this cake and then you share it with the clients and go, best cake in the world, come buy it, come eat it. And one of them eats it and goes, yeah, but strawberries on top would be great. And another client says, well, I'm allergic to strawberries. And then somebody else says, actually, the egg that you put in, I'd like a non-egg alternative. And then but you've got a vision for like a 5 tier cake. So when do you put the strawberries in and not build tier two? And it's the management between what is your very clear plan, 10 systems into one, and this journey and this technology and this one tech kind of platform, and then clients saying, yeah, but the tech you've built, I'd love it if it did this. And could you just do that? Could you do that? And then you never get to step 2 or 3 or 4 because you're making step one. Awesome. So that managing that is right where we are now in this year 4. So this is the start of year 6. I think years 4 to 8, bridging both sides of that, a foot on both sides, managing customer expectations because they exist now. They never did when you had your amazing idea, and going through all of that. That it's wonderful, and we really benefit from that client feedback. That's our best asset. And managing it and looking after them and managing their expectations is so important. We need to get that right. We need to build what they're asking for and still be able to fund and deliver and build the dream as well. So that's crucial.
I love that. Let's unpack that a little bit,
Mm.
because when it comes to seeing the future or creating clarity, both for our company and for our product, reimagining those and what that needs to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years from now, instead of just what I need to do in the next 2 months to satisfy this client.
Yeah.
Building that long-term future. Uh, how's that going for you now? How do you feel about your progress there?
So I think that coming at this from a police background is where I can lean into the discipline of organization and take those transferable soft skills into another environment because we benefit from battle rhythm. So there's a big, hairy, audacious plan. It's 15 years. It's 3 5 year chunks. Startup, scale up, sweep up. Let's get going. We're right in the middle of that now in the scale up phase. So that a plan is just a dream without a strategy or whatever the saying is. We've added milestones to each one, so we know what success looks and feels like, and we can measure it. And we break that down into chunks. So we have really clear annual goals across the 4 departments that are jointly agreed upon with department heads, and we get together as a leadership team and say, right, that's where we're going. That's what we're going to have. That's what we're going to deliver. And then we break that down into monthly milestones. And then we meet weekly and report against those milestones. And we do it in a town hall kind of way. Some of the teams meet daily and do daily stand ups. And incrementally, one Lego brick on top of another, you get to the end of the year, you look back and you go, oh, we did it. Or we exceeded, or we fell short here, but we can pick up that and we know why. And you've got enough time to do the horizon scanning, see the problems coming, course correct and adjust, and keep yourself on track. It's expensive funding a team of that size and getting ahead of sales and growth and backing yourselves and backing your future and thinking, well, if we build those things, then these people will buy it and then we'll have the revenue to pay for the people that we brought in, and scaling up is always good. Investment plays a big part in that, so that you can get ahead of the competition, maintain your market dominance, reclaim that number one position, and keep going. So I think that the battle rhythm, the police discipline, the targets, the objectives, the operations, the language that comes from that, I would be um, concerned if maybe I'd gone to university, had a good idea at uni, and then just tried it on my own. For me, for some people, that works great, and I'm really impressed with those people. I take my hat off to them. They're incredible, and I think for me and my learning style and my mindset, I've benefited from doing something with my life first, and then coming across an idea and blending the two together.
Yeah,
A bit like they say, you should always have a trade, don't they? In case
yeah.
anything goes wrong, you can fall back on it. It's a little bit like that.
What I love about it is you took and I'm going to change the words and just call them a meeting rhythm. You, know,
Yeah, there you go.
you had a battle rhythm
Yeah,
of like we knew we were going and doing these things. You could call it the same thing, but
yeah,
the idea is there's time and space created to work on the long-term future.
yeah.
And there's time and space created, which is a separate time and place to run the daily operations.
It is exactly that.
Right. And that
Yeah.
that balance, doing that just helps so much because at this phase where you're at, you've got over a dozen people, you got 15 or so, 16, 17 people. You get to that size and the demands just from the customers and then from your employees,
Mhm.
you could spend all day with a line of people coming to ask you questions
Oh yeah.
and solving problems and putting out fires, running from one thing to the next, never having time to think about 2026,
Hmm.
2025, right? Or even 6 months from now.
Yeah.
And but because that time's carved out, that it has a special job to do, you're able to both reinvent your business, and if you're taking time and your team's doing it intentionally, reinvent the product. Because we keep thinking sometimes that our current product is what's going to take us and scale us. And that's nice. And it may exist when we get there. But every product has a life cycle.
Mm.
It starts off in debt, right? where,
Yeah.
where we're cranking it. No one's buying, we're building, no one's buying.
Yeah.
Someone
Yeah.
buys, but we're losing money like crazy still.
Yeah.
And we grow and we grow and people start buying it and buying it. We're finally getting up above where we're not losing money. Money's finally being put into the bank where we can afford to invest in something more potentially. And then it peaks and we're making good money there. And it's tempting to think this is just going to keep going. Let's ride the gravy train. But that's not the way it works. Products have a life cycle. So they go up and they come down like a bell curve.
Mm.
While you're up at the top and you see great margins happening, you have to talk with that product team who's thinking 5, 6 years in advance and talking to your future ideal customers. They may be the same customers, but solving problems for them that they didn't know they needed solved yet. That future ideal customer reinventing as though you're starting in debt again. This time, though, you're using your profits, you're in debt to your current business as you're inventing the next product cycle, the next product. So you can basically, you're going up this little S curve, right? From debt up to the top of that bell curve. It's like an S coming up. You got to jump that and do another S and
The,
reimagine that. And your
the
meeting rhythm is perfect to be able to do just that.
the best, well, I think the best example of that, and added to the meeting with them, I think you've got to have meetings with people that you trust, that you've empowered to have the breathing space to do better than you. Hire people smarter than you, bring people in that are better than you, so that they feel empowered to make decisions and push things on and get things done. And that's certainly true of the Halo team. They're the best people right now that I've ever worked with at Halo, and this team will definitely take the business into the future. And we're working hard on keeping the team happy and giving them everything that they need, as well as also um, looking into the world and taking in inspiration from exactly what you've just described. That best example being the iPad. Apple are there riding out their hardware products and having a great time, and they've launched the iPhone. And there's an amazing Steve Jobs marketing speech with its three products. It's actually one, and they've got the iMac and they've done the MacBook, and they kind of sat around looking at the product suite. And the iPod was kind of still around, but being absorbed and cannibalized by the phone. And then from nowhere, they go, "Well, what about an iPad right in the middle?" So, well, what's the point in that? It's not even got a keyboard; it's just a giant phone. And then boom, iPad. So an Apple Watch and the car that never was. So I think looking out into the world and taking inspiration from companies that you want to be like and that are doing great things with products and great things with people and great things in the world, that tech for good, is really important.
I love that. And we've heard it throughout your examples. It's been clear that Lloyd isn't trying to do this solo. Neither are you and your partner only, but that you're
Mm.
co-creating the future with your team, which is what's essential. If you don't want them to be a burden on your back, help them see where we're going. Give them the tools. bring great people in, build that time and space. They are going to run, and you're going to try to keep up with them. That's what we want. That's the only way to really scale a business well. It's not the perfect product. It's the
Yeah.
team that can figure out the right product, that can understand the customers, that can stay agile in the changes that are coming on. That's really the key for that growth. So I love that you brought
Oh,
that out.
without a doubt. I mean, we've got competitors in the marketplace, and they're nice people doing nice things. And ultimately, when people buy from us instead of them, or over them, or in place of them, sometimes we compete for the same clients, and when things go well, they go our way. And that's often from the feedback that old story of people by people. They enjoy the passion, the enthusiasm, the journey that we're on. They like engaging with the Halo team. They like the customer support and the customer feedback, and it's infectious. I think helping us out and changing things and making things better. And the two biggest things when you say to me about it's not my journey, the two things I talk about at Halo all the time are evidence versus ego. So if somebody's got a if I've had an idea for something and somebody's got it and it's better or they take it, then run with it and let's go because that's the evidence that we need to do and you can't bring that ego to the table because it stifles innovation and robs people of their voice. And that leads me to the second point where I've been in the room when people haven't said something and then people have gone on and died and I know the power of the voice of dissent. There's somebody in that room who can see that you're the emperor wearing the new clothes, and they kind of get carried away with the fact, well, there's so many other smart people around here. Why aren't they saying anything? And then the whole management team or the whole company or the whole intelligence service go in one particular direction. You think, well, hang on a minute, we've missed that massive landmine, and somebody would have seen it coming and not said anything. So the voice of dissent is to be championed. It doesn't matter if they've been in the company 5 minutes or 5 years. Speak. You're hired for your voice and your ideas.
I love that. I love that. Great example. Well, you shared some wonderful nuggets with us. Lloyd, now that you're at this spot, what's your current challenges that maybe we could spend a little bit of time and dig into and bring a little value today?
Yeah, thank you. I think the current challenges are keeping it all going and changing some of the legacy infrastructure. So, a challenge just from today, for example, we are migrating from one finance and accounting system to another one. Because the other one's bigger and it's got more integrations and it's got more powerful tech, and we can connect everything together and smooth our journey out, which means we don't need to hire so many staff because we've got so many automations and technology working hard for us, working smart, not working hard. Um, but honestly, it's quite a heavy lift going through all of your finances and your direct debits and your mandates and communicating with customers and saying, "Hey, look, we're going through this. It's going to be rough. Sorry if we bill you twice. Sorry if we don't bill you at all. We need to sort this out." And I think we can manage it, and I think we'll manage it smoothly. But it's that scale up problem when you then start having customers in the US and different states in the US, and then in the Middle East and different countries in the Middle East, and then Canada, and then Ireland, and then Europe, and then all of a sudden you're managing it in different tax areas with different currencies and currency fluctuations, and you think, oh, wow, stop the ride, I want to get off. There's a lot happening financially across so company finance, company structure, company tax, company governance. That's the biggest challenge as we grow right now.
Yeah, yeah. And as you look at putting that together, who's on your who's on your special team that's pulled in to make it happen for you?
Well, if we take that challenge and parallel with a marketing challenge, we've been out and created a marketing team. So we've got a head of marketing, a digital marketing manager, outsourced PR support and design support and all the things that come together to give us a marketing voice. Because we've invested and we want marketing which supports sales, which supports growth and revenue. And I want to do that with the financial side so that we've got a part-time CFO who's a wonderful character and really helped us a lot over the last 2 years. But actually, finding legal support and finding more full time or part time internal bookkeeping and legal support as well.
I'm
Taking what
seeing the
we've,
costs
you know,
go up through the. I'm seeing the costs go right
exactly.
up through the roof on this one.
Yeah, yeah. So we've invested in marketing first to support sales. We've invested in tech to support sales. So we're putting the horse in front of the cart, and we're
Hmm.
probably going to carry the risk for a while. I think when you are growing a business, risk appetite, defining risk appetite, what you're prepared to look at and carry, and what you need to spend money on to address. We're not doing anything illegal. We've ticked
No,
all the boxes. We've registered all the companies. We're paying all the contracts and framework, and everything's fine. But it could be better, and it needs to be better if the marketing kicks off and the tech kicks off, and we get the products to version 6 and 7 the way we want to, and then we've got this global beast. That's the next step. So there isn't anybody in the team right now. We're managing the risk. We've got some of it outsourced. We know it's a problem that's going to appear because we've created the time and space to see it coming. But yeah, we need to address that in the next 12 to 18 months, definitely.
let's talk about some. So the thing in this growth phase is we see all that's needed when we're looking down the road, but
Mm.
we don't have all the money for it,
Yeah,
right? And so the money's coming as it comes, and figuring out, so how do I transition between here, and not just to get the work done? How could I use this difficult situation as a way to build my company better for the future? Uh, if you could figure out how to bridge those gaps between I've got staff to take care of it, and I can't afford this other staff to do the other thing. Like you've got this chasm. I have a need,
uh,
but I don't have a team to do it. Lloyd's only got so many hours in the day, right? Like we're already stretched. If you could bridge that, what would that do for your business? What would it do for your business to be able to care for those needs with a very limited budget and time?
I think that it would secure our growth in new markets, which would transform our turnover and help us meet our financial growth objectives. I think they're linked, links in a chain, or dominoes, or however you want to link them. But and one of the bridges across those chasms are investment, and we've been successful in getting investment two or three times. Yeah, but the investment market has changed, and speaking to investors now is really interesting on both sides of the Atlantic. There's very bullish attitudes in the US. I think US investors have seen the benefits of tech companies firsthand. It's no surprise or no shock, really, that the largest investment companies uh, in the US are, sorry, in the world are from the US. That can't be a coincidence. Silicon Valley is in the US, and I think 8 of the top 10 tech companies in the world are all Americans. So uh,
So that's a
Nvidia,
bridge.
yeah,
We can look for cash from outside to hire
mm,
talent. Not everybody is, not all of our listeners have the type of business that people want to just invest dollars into. Though I think that
yeah,
that's a great way to look. A lot of people get money though from investors and we spend it rather quickly.
can,
And
yeah,
we balloon up our overhead. We
hmm,
throw money at stupid marketing instead of good marketing, right?
yeah,
Just burn through the cash pretty fast.
yeah,
And I want to play a little bit more and say, this is a challenge, and a challenge to overcome is an opportunity to build your team so they're ready when you triple in size. Remember that tripling principle.
Mm.
When you triple in size, if you can help your team be the ones that overcome the challenge, they'll be ready for the next round of tripling. If
Yeah,
not, you'll have to follow what the investors tell you, which is you need new leadership.
yeah,
And they just replace current
yeah,
leadership. They just
yeah,
they say, well, that's as much as you're a business owner who can only do this size, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life because no one
yeah.
was born the CEO of $100 million company,
You're
right?
exactly
They
right.
all grew
Yeah,
into it.
yeah,
Everybody has grown into this. So
yeah, yeah,
dumbest thing ever, but it has to do with timing.
yeah,
If we don't build the three so they can lead us when we're 9 or 10, we're going to miss it. If
yeah,
when we're 10 to 15, if we don't build the team so that they'll succeed at the 30 to 100 range, they won't be ready for it. And so here, maybe this will be a nugget in there that without adding additional dollar cost, many of these projects, like a big integration, tech integration, we got to change our stuff up and move to another thing, or a product innovation that we need to change, or a new process to ensure the customer experience is smoother. It's breaking down at this new size, right?
mhm.
Or anticipating what it will be. Any of these projects that you wrestle with, because that's what you spend your time thinking about. You talk with the team in those group meetings, and that's fantastic, but it's likely a lot of the tasks are being handed to people who are hired in the role to do it. And for instance, we don't have a role of integrating or changing over, transferring over software from one accounting system to the other because we only have an outsourced CFO. And
Yeah,
we
yeah,
have a lot more work to do than that, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
because we don't have that person, we do have the right people though in our business. So what I like to do is out of that battle rhythm that you've got on the long term, when you pick a priority like we've got to change over our accounting software so that we can actually scale and not have to balloon our overhead. We've got to figure this out. Now we say, okay, who on the team, let's break this down. Who on the team is doing their job today? They're doing a good job and we think they have extra capacity. They have some skills and some insights. And who else on the team maybe knows certain key points that this accounting system had better hit right on for them because they're going to have to live around it. The data is coming out for them, right? So key teamers, members of the team, just all around, they could be brand new hires that are in a spot but are fulfilling their role already. Can't be super brand new, but fulfilling their role already, let's say in their first 3 to 6 months. And then we get this team. It's an ad hoc team that maybe spends 2 or 3 hours a week in their individual time doing work after they've Gantt charted, project managed this thing out of how are we going to roll this out? How are we going to get the right data? How should we build this? And do we have maybe an outside person with insight who can help us best use the system? Right? We've got some tech people that are part of that team, and so we're looking at this now. This team builds a solution, helps to integrate it in on their extra time. And we often think they don't have extra time because we feel so busy, but they do. They do have a little extra time, especially if they get to work on cool things with Lloyd.
Yeah,
It's true. What you're
it's
doing is they're getting to imagine with you. You're
mm,
actually building them to be leaders. They own individual parts of this priority. They're building the future of the business, and they're the very ones who will be using it later. So implementation or adoption is assured. It's perfect. It will be adopted because they built what they wanted. But more importantly, the people have been built now to see a problem, come together, solve the problem, execute against that, and build what your company needs 6 months, a year, 2, 3 years from now, whatever that priority said it needed to be. And you've built a team that's ready for the next stage of growth. In fact, you do that with every priority, and so many of your teams are out there doing these like ad hoc projects, but strategic ones. They're being engaged in things outside of The one thing, like, they're in sales. Why are they doing this? Trust me, sales wants to know how part of this works so that their, commissions pay out right, so that they're
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
or better yet, operations. They really want to know because all their data is coming from that. All their
Yeah.
right. Someone from accounting wants to know, because they're the ones inputting everything. Whatever it is, let's use them. That's a place that, even though it's not their role, they get an insight into the other parts of the business. They start to form key relationships, trusting each other in other departments, and you'll prepare yourself for faster growth. Maybe plugging that in when you're solving some of those great problems. Every problem is an opportunity to build a relationship and build your
Mm.
talent for the future. So we just don't want to miss it by just
Yeah.
bringing in outside people to do it.
Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. I think the team at Halo right now is 16 with two part-time or freelance people. So 16 full-time, two freelance. And one of the things that I did, which raised an eyebrow, that caused some curiosity back in January, 6 months ago now, was created a job role for what I call mission control. So it's a bit of a universal catch-all kind of title for that person who can be a strategic right-hand person for me, but has no line management responsibility. It's a very senior role, so they're by no means my PA or executive assistant or anything like that. It's an empowered position to capture those growth projects and make sure that I'm staying mission focused, that the heads of department are contributing to those annual tasks. I was doing it all on my own, all that project management and governance that you spoke about, and it was weighing me down, and it was slowing the business down, and affecting exactly what we said right at the beginning, that energy input for three times more reward. It was totally that other way around, which is, I guess, is typical of startups. And then we brought mission control in, and they became really busy, and the tech team needed a product manager. But the kind of product management is a full time job, and it's a worthwhile job, and it's an important job. But there's a bit of capacity in there, and they don't always want to sit in the tech team all the time. So we made them a mission manager and lifted them up to put them in with the kind of leadership team, and we've got that core nucleus of people who can do exactly what you've just described. And again, I think that comes from, in the police, you've got the response teams that answer the 911, 999 calls, and they'll turn up at everything that's already happened really quickly. And then you get the proactive teams that try to stop the stuff happening in the first place. You get the investigative teams who will investigate the most serious stuff. And you have these specialist departments. And then you have a planning department in the middle that can help pull it all together, that works on the big events and the big protests and the big rallies, and then organizes 100 staff to go one place and 1,000 staff to go another place, and keeps everything functioning. And in the absence of an operational planning unit, I've created like a mission unit, mission control, that's again reaches back to that police experience, because I think that's all I've really got to lean on,
Yeah,
having never
yeah,
grown a business
yeah.
before.
You
So it's
you've built a
very similar.
position to be the head of the priorities as
Yes,
they run
yes,
those, and
yeah,
and our suggestion in there is rotate more people through that role,
that's a great idea.
because then they're able to do
Yeah,
it, because later you'll have more departments and there's more needs, and not just this top strategic that has to happen, but they'll need it within their groups.
yeah,
So rotate more people through the role, even if it's just temporary. It's just
yeah,
one quarter that
yeah,
they're taking on, and they may be adding 5 hours a week to their workload to really pull this off. But they can be taught by that mission control person best practices in managing
yeah.
project management stuff, right? And so, but rotate people through so they're ready for your next stage of growth. Now's the
It's a
time to build
really
the
good
leaders you
idea.
need
Yeah,
when you get to 30. So,
yeah.
great. Wow. I wish we could just keep jamming on this, because I feel like there's so much we connect on, and so many ideas we're sharing. And hopefully the listeners have gotten something out of it today. Lloyd, if someone wants to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch to either use your software or to tap into your brilliance?
Well, yeah, that's very kind. They'd be very welcome to go to halosolutions.com. They can email me on lloyd at halosolutions.com. They'll find me on LinkedIn, Lloyd Major. So we're out there. We're really easily accessible and we're really friendly. We reply to everybody that gets in touch, and we'd be happy to share ideas and help and chat and speak to other founders. And it's important. It's a good community.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thanks so much, Lloyd. That concludes this episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. We hope you found the value that you needed from today's episode. And if you did, please like, share, do all the things necessary to help other seven figure business owners tap into some of these resources, some of these ideas, and to this community so we can help each other grow. Keep striving, keep learning, keep caring. Until next time.